Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon, Pastor.
The deeper we get into this book of Ezekiel, the more repetitive it comes, but the repetition is very directed. And that repetition is directed at us, whether we believe that or not. The things that he repeats are things that he's not going to repeat anymore after the tribulation. In other words, the things that we're doing now, get that stuff out of the way. And he's not going to allow it anymore. He doesn't allow it now. We just keep doing it. But the stuff he focuses on in this book, he's not going to allow anymore. I'm not pointing anybody out. That's my job. And we start with the story of the prophet Ezekiel, part 6. And by my word at this point, will be about 15 parts. Yahweh has drawn his sword. And the word of Yahweh Elohim came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward Jerusalem. Preach against the holy places and prophesy against the land of Israel. And say to the land, thus says sovereign Yahweh, behold, I am against. Wait for me to give them, I will give them. I'm just setting the thing up. Preach against the holy places, prophesy against the land of Israel, and say to the land of Israel, thus says sovereign Yahweh, behold, I am against you, and I will draw my sword out of its sheath, and cut off both righteous and wicked from you. Because I will cut off both righteous and wicked from you. Therefore my sword shall go out of its sheath against all flesh from south to north, that all flesh may know that I, Yahweh Elohim, have drawn my sword out of its sheath. It shall not return anymore. It will stay out from that point on. That's what I was explaining. You don't choose your time to come to him, but he does choose when time's up. When Yahweh's judgment came against the nation, it would not be against specific individuals. It would come against the people in general. And both righteous and wicked would find themselves under his sword. Both righteous and wicked. This teaching here regarding the cutting off of both righteous and wicked does not contradict the teaching of chapter 18, that only the soul that sins shall die. Turn quickly to Ezekiel, the 18th chapter, the 20th verse. The soul that sins, it shall die. The Son shall not bear the iniquity of the Father, neither shall the Father bear the iniquity of the Son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him. But if the wicked will return from all his sins that he has committed, and keep all my statutes, and do that which is lawful and right, he shall surely live. He shall not die. The former passage spoke of final judgment, while this passage in Ezekiel 18 speaks of temporal judgment. A temporal judgment regarding that nation done when they were knowingly disregarding the word of Yahweh. The things that they had done. They knew and did it anyway. As regards final judgment, the righteous will not be destroyed along with the wicked. In temporal judgments, however, both often suffer equally. This is why so many times we are told to come out of her, my people. We'll find this in Revelation, the 18th chapter, the 4th verse. Revelation, the 18th chapter, the 4th verse. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people." Not necessarily physically come out, but essentially spiritually come out. Don't do the things that your nation does. An example of this is now that the nation has come to the right side of the abortion debate, the people are rising up against the nation. Don't do that. In general, I'm saying don't do that. Don't specifically do that one thing and do all the rest. No. Don't follow the nation into the hole. Come out of her, my people, that you may not partake of her sin, and that you may not receive of her plagues. What does that tell you? Plagues are coming. With regard to end-time Babylon, which we are. Not only us, the whole world at this point is Babylon. That at that time is the whole world, the civilized world anyway, that's what they call it. I don't think that what I see on television every night is civilized by any measure. But in the realized end times, this will be the one world government that is to come. And this is just the beginnings of it. It will get a lot worse. Now go into Ezekiel, the 21st chapter, the first verse. Ezekiel, the 21st chapter, the first verse. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward Jerusalem, and drop a word toward the holy places, and prophesy against the land of Israel, and say to the land of Israel, So says Yahweh, Behold, I am against you, and will draw out my sword out of its sheath, and will cut off from you the righteous and the wicked. Since then, I will cut off the righteous and the wicked from you. Therefore, my sword shall be drawn from its sheath against all flesh, from the south to the north, so that all flesh may know that I, Yahweh, have drawn out my sword from its sheath. It shall not be returned anymore. And you, son of man, groan with the breaking of your loins. Whoa. And groan with bitterness before your eyes. And it will be when they say to you, Why do you groan? You shall answer, Because of the news that it is coming, and every heart shall melt, and all hands shall be feeble, and every spirit shall faint, and all knees shall be weak as water. Behold, it comes, and it shall be, says the sovereign. Get their attention and bring them back from this rebellion they're in. It is polished so that there may be a flash to it. Or shall we rejoice? You are despising the rod of my son as if it were every tree. And he has given it to be polished, to be taken by the hand, the sword. It is sharpened, and it is polished, to give it into the hand of the slayer. Cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be on my people. It shall be on all the rulers of Israel. They are thrown to the sword with my people. Therefore, slap your thigh, because it is a trial. And what if even the despising rod shall not be, says the sovereign Yahweh. And you, son of man, prophesy and strike your hands together, and let the sword be doubled the third time. The sword of the slain, it is the sword of the slain, the great one that surrounds them. Verse 15. So that their heart may melt, and many stumble at all their gates. I have given the threatening sword. It is made like lightning. It is wrapped for a slaughter. Sharpen yourself on the right. Set yourself on the left, wherever your face is set. And also, I will also strike my hands together, and I will cause my fury to rest. I, Yahweh, have spoken. Verse 18. The word of Yahweh came to me again, saying, And you, son of man, set for yourself 2 ways, that the sword of the king of Babylon may come. Both of them shall come out of one land, and create a hand at the head of the way to the city. Create it. You shall set a way that the sword may enter into Rabbah of the Ammonites, and into Judah, into fortified Jerusalem. This is a fortified city, and he knocks it down like this. That should have told them something. Should have. Into a fortified Jerusalem. 21. For the king of Babylon shall stand at the parting of the way, at the head of the 2 ways, to practice divination. He shall shake arrows. He shall ask household idols. He shall look at the liver. They're doing witchcraft here. That's what that all is. Practicing divination, asking the household idols or something, looking at body parts. That's divination. 22. At his right shall be the divining for Jerusalem, to set battering rams, to open the mouth in the slaughter, to lift up the voice with shouting, to set battering rams against the gates, to pour out and build a siege wall. That's a wall nobody can get into. They had that at the outset. He went right through it. 23. And it shall be to them an empty divining before their eyes. Those who have sworn oaths to them, but he will remember iniquity, that they may be taken. So the sovereign Yahweh says this: because you have made your iniquity to be remembered, and that your transgressions are discovered, and that your sins are revealed in all your deeds, because you have been remembered, you shall be taken with the hand. And you, O slain, wicked king of Israel, of whom has come his day, and the time of iniquity of the end. So says the sovereign Yahweh: remove the diadem, scepter, and take off the crown. this shall not be as it was. Lift up the low one and put down the high one. Ruin, ruin, ruin. It will appoint it. Also, this shall not be until the coming of him who is the right, and I will give it to him. He's talking about Yahweh here. Yeshua. I will give it to him. All the land to give it to him in the end time. 28. And you, son of man, prophesy and say, so says the sovereign Yahweh, concerning the Ammonites and concerning their shame. Even so, even say, the sword is drawn, polished for slaughter, to make an end, that it may be like lightning. While they see false visions for you, while they divine a lie to you, to put you on the necks of the slain of the wicked, whose day has come in the day of iniquity. It shall have an end. Return it to its sheath. In the place where you were created, in the land of your origin, I will judge you. In your own home, he will judge you. And I will pour out my disgust on you with the fire of my wrath. I will blow against you and give you into the hand of burning men, able to destroy. There is a concert they have every year called the Burning Man concert. That's where they got the name from, not even knowing what they were talking about. That's not a good thing. I will blow against you and give you into the hand of the burning men, able to destroy. You shall be for food to the fire. Your blood shall be in the midst of the land. You shall be remembered no more. For I, Yahweh, have spoken. Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter, the 1st verse. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, and you, son of man, will you judge? Will you judge the bloody city? And you shall make her know all her abominations. And you shall say, so says the sovereign Yahweh, the city sheds blood in her midst, that her time may come, and makes idols against herself to defile herself. You are guilty in your blood that you have shed, and you have defiled yourself in your idols that you have made, and your days are brought near and have come to your years. Therefore, I have made you a reproach to the nations, and a mocking to all lands. Those who are near and those who far from you shall mock against you. O defiled of name, abounding in tumult. Behold, the rulers of Israel, each man by his might, has been in you in order to shed blood. The whole purpose to come among you is to shed your blood. Verse 7. In you they have despised father and mother. In your midst they have dealt with the stranger by oppression. In you that oppress the orphan and the widow. Those are the weakest people in the land. To oppress them is against everything that God is. Verse 8. You have despised my holy things and have profaned my Sabbaths, plural. In you are men of slander to shed blood, and in you they eat on the mountains, in the high places again. In your midst they do unchaste acts. Let your mind wander on that one. There's nothing here to specify what those acts are. Verse 10. In you they have uncovered their father's nakedness. Well, he tells you now. In you that they have humbled her, defiled by impurity. And a man has done abomination with his neighbor's wife. And a man has defiled his daughter-in-law in unchaste acts. And a man has humbled within you his sister, his father's daughter. Whoever said that Yahweh was mean and evil and all of that, they didn't read this, did they? They got another chance after all this? And this isn't the first time they've done this. Verse 12. In you they have taken bribes to shed blood. You have taken usury and increase, and you gained it by extortion of your neighbors. That sounds like somebody else to me. My bank, for one. Chase that down. And you have forgotten me, says the sovereign Yahweh. And behold, I have struck my palm against your unjust gain, which you have made, and at your blood, which has been in your midst. Can your heart stand? Or can your hands be strong in the day that I shall deal with you? I, Yahweh, have spoken, and I will act. And I will scatter you among the nations and disperse you in the lands, and will destroy your uncleanness out of you. And you will be profaned in you before the eyes of the nations, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, the house of Israel has become dross to me. Dust off of silver, but it's still dust. Dross to me. All of them are bronze and tin and iron and lead. the middle of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver. Therefore, so says the sovereign Yahweh, because you have all become dross. Behold, therefore I will gather you into the middle of Jerusalem, as they gather silver and bronze and iron and lead and tin into the middle of the furnace, to blow the fire on it, to melt it. So I will gather you in my anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. And I will gather you and blow on you in the fire of my wrath. And you shall be melted in the middle of it. Silver is melted in the middle of the furnace. So you shall be melted in the middle of it. And you shall know that I, Yahweh, have poured out my fury on you. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, say to her, you are a land not being cleansed, nor rained on in the day of disgust. A plot by her prophets is in her midst, like a roaring lion tearing the prey. They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious things. They multiplied her many widows in her midst. Her priests have broken my law and have defiled my holy things. The priest did this? They have put no difference between the holy and the common, and have not taught between the unclean and the clean, and have hidden their eyes from my Sabbaths, plural. And I am defiled among them. Her rulers in her midst are like wolves tearing the prey, to shed blood and to destroy souls, to get unjust gain. And the prophets have dogged themselves with lying, seeing vanity and divining lies, saying, so says the sovereign Yahweh, when Yahweh has not spoken. Troubled the poor and needy. Yea, they have oppressed the stranger without right. And they sought for a man among them who should wall up a wall for the land and stand in the break for me, that I should not destroy it. But I did not find one. In other words, in the whole land, stand there and say, stop, don't do it. Not one. That sounds like us a little bit more every day. Verse 31. Therefore I have poured out my fury on them. Burn them up with the fire of my wrath. I have given their way on their heads, says the sovereign Yahweh. And they did more than that. And he still let How many of you have heard of Ohola and Oholabah? 3. We'll hear about them now. This one was a little deep, and I will ask permission to present this in front of David. This one a little deep. It'll be a little bit deep for him, even him. These names, Ohola and Oholabah, these are the pejorative names that the prophet Ezekiel made up for the cities of Samaria in the kingdom of Israel, and the cities surrounding and associated with Israel. There were 2 women, the daughters of one woman. Ezekiel 23 presents 2 symbolic sisters, representing the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. This story of the 2 sisters is not a perfect illustration of the relationship between Yahweh and Israel, even at its worst. Sovereign Yahweh did not have 2 wives. Did not have 2 wives. I say it again. And if anybody says anything different, I have it said 3 times. I did not say that he had 2 wives. This is not lawful in his domain. But the story of the 2 sisters is a powerful description of how Judah followed in the sinful steps of her sister city, Israel. Now, go on to Ezekiel, 23rd chapter, starting at the 1st verse. The word of Yahweh came again to me, Son of man. There were 2 women, the daughters of one mother, and they fornicated in Egypt. They whored in their youth. Their breasts were handled. And there, their virgin nipples were worked. And their names were Ohola, the oldest, and Oholabah, her sister. And they were mine. And they bare sons and daughters. And their names, Samaria is Ohola, and Jerusalem is Oholabah. And Ohola whored unto me, and she lusted after her lovers, to her Assyrian neighbors, clothed with purple, governors and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding horses. So she bestowed her harlotries on them, the choice sons of Assyria, with all of them, and with all whom she lusted after. She defiled herself with all their idols. Nor did she leave her fornications from Egypt, for in her youth they lay with her, and they worked her virgin nipples, and poured their fornications on her. Therefore I have given her into the hands of her lovers, and into the hands of the Assyrians on whom she lusted. And while you're wrapping your minds around this, wrap your minds around the fact that this idolatry was due. She is portrayed as a whore. But whoredom in this parlance also means that you're going after foreign gods as well. Verse 9. Therefore I have given her into the hands of her lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians, on whom she lusted. They uncovered her nakedness. They took her sons and her daughters and killed her with the sword. And she became notorious among women. And they executed judgment on her. And her sister Oholibah saw she was more corrupt in her lustfulness than she. And her fornications were greater than her sister's whoredom. She lusted to the sons of Assyria, governors and rulers nearby, clothed most perfectly, horsemen riding horses, all of them desirable young men. And I saw that she was defiled. One way was to both of them. And she added to her fornications. And she saw men carved up on the wall, images of the Chaldeans engraved with vermilion, girded with girdles on their loins, with flowing turbans on their heads, all of them looking like rulers, like the sons of Babylon in Chaldea, the land of their birth. And she lusted after them to the sight of her eyes. And she sent messengers to them into Chaldea. And the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with fornication. And she was defiled with them, and her mind was alienated from them. So she uncovered her fornications and uncovered her nakedness. And my soul was alienated from her, just as my soul was alienated from her sister. Verse 19. Yet she multiplied her fornications to recall the days of her youth, in which she had played the harlot in the land of Egypt. And she lusted on her lovers, whose flesh is like the flesh of donkeys, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. So you longed for the wickedness of your youth, when the Egyptians worked your nipples, for the sake of the breasts of your youth. So, O Oholibah, the sovereign Yahweh says this: Behold, I will raise up against you your lovers, from whom your soul is alienated. And I will bring them against you from all around, the Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Pekod and Shoah and Kua, and all the Assyrians with them, all of them desirable young men, governors and rulers, all of them, third heads and called ones, all of them riding on horses. And they shall come against you with weapons, chariots and wheels, and with an assembly of peoples, buckler and shield and helmet shall set against you all around. And I will set judgment before them, and they shall judge you by their judgments. And I will set my jealousy against you, and they shall deal with you in fury. They shall take away your nose and your ears, and the rest of you shall fall by the sword. They shall take away your sons and your daughters, and the rest of you shall be devoured by the fire. They shall also strip you of your clothes and take away your beautiful jewels. So I will make your wickedness to cease from you, and your fornication from the land of Egypt. And you shall not lift up your eyes to them, nor shall you remember Egypt anymore. For so says the sovereign Yahweh, behold, I will give you into the hand of those whom you hate, into the hand of whom your soul was alienated from them. And they shall deal with you in hatred, and shall take away all your labor, and shall leave you naked and bare. And the nakedness of your fornications shall be uncovered, both your wickedness and your fornications. It said that there, two things were going on: the wickedness and the fornications. Verse 30. These things will be done to you because you have whored after the nations, and because you are defiled with their idols. You have walked in the way of your sister. Therefore I will give her cup into your hand. So says the sovereign Yahweh, you shall drink of your sister's cup, deep and large. You shall be laughed to scorn and mocked, for it holds much. With drunkenness and sorrow you are filled, the cup of horror and ruin, the cup of your sister Samaria. You shall even drink it and empty it, and you shall break its pieces and tear off your own breasts. For I have spoken, says the sovereign Yahweh. So the sovereign Yahweh says this: because you have forgotten me and cast me behind your back, therefore bear also your wickedness and your adulteries. And Yahweh says to me, Son of man, will you judge Oholah and Oholibah and declare them their abominations, that they have committed adultery and blood is on their hands, and they have committed adultery with their idols, and have also caused their sons whom they bore to me to pass through the fire, to them to devour them. Yet they have done this to me. They have defiled my sanctuary in that day, and have profaned my Sabbaths, plural. I say that plural for a reason. So many times, so many have said that there is no mention of the holy days in the Old Testament or the New Testament to match it up. Every time he says Sabbaths, he's including the holy days with the Sabbath. And anybody that thinks that they know something that doesn't know that, you got another thing coming. 39. And when they had slain their sons to their idols, then they came into my sanctuary. What? In that day to profane it. And lo, This they have done in the midst of my house. And they have even sent for men to come from far, to whom a messenger was sent. And lo, they came. You washed yourself for them, painted your eyes, and adorned yourself with ornaments, and sat on a stately bed with a table prepared before it, which you set my incense and my oil. And the sound of a crowd was at ease with her, and drunkards from the wilderness were brought with the men of the host of mankind. And they put bracelets on their hands and crowns of beauty on their heads. And I said about the one worn in adulteries, will they now whore with her, and she with them? And they went into her, as they go into a woman of harlotry. So they went into Oholah, into Oholibah. The wicked women, and as righteous men, they shall judge them with the judgment of adulteresses, and the judgment of women who shed blood, because they are adulteresses, and blood is in their hands. For so says the sovereign Yahweh, I will bring up a company on them, and will give them to be removed and stripped. And the company shall stone them with stones, and cut them down with their swords. They shall kill their sons and their daughters, and burn up their houses with fire. So I will cause wickedness to cease out of the land, that all women may be taught, even not to go after your wickedness. And they shall put your wickedness on you, and you shall bear the sins of your idols, and you shall know that I am Yahweh, sovereign Yahweh. Any questions, comments, clarifications? Develop.
She was killed. I mean, then they stoned her. Then they killed her again. Is that what I'm reading? Am I reading that right?
You're reading it right, but
How many times or was it more than one?
no, this is several events, and he boils it all down into one. The bottom line here is they were killed for what they were done. They had done.
Yeah.
And they did the end of it in the temple itself.
But they said that they killed her once in chapter.
A lot of this is symbolic. A lot of this is symbolic.
Thank you.
But the symbols are something that really happened. And some of it will happen again in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
In the end time. A lot of these are dual prophecies. Dual prophecies. It'll happen again. Dwayne?
The matter of the evil and the righteous dying together, then it was the sword and the spear and people who didn't care. And today it's the missiles and the bombs, which don't care either. They do not discriminate.
The thing is, there is a time when some will be separated out. But Yahweh will do that himself. Yeshua himself will do that. And it will come as far as I know, right after the 3 days of the two witnesses in Jerusalem.
Okay, Pastor, when you were reading Ezekiel 22 and verse 30, that Yahweh could not find not even one person to stand in the breach. I think of Moses when Yahweh was getting ready to wipe Israel out and start anew through Moses. But he found that Moses was that one person in that case that saved the whole people, because he told them that the pagan people would think that Yahweh brought them out in the wilderness and couldn't bring them all the way and stuff, brought them out there to kill them. So Yahweh relented and spared the people because of that one person.
Yep. But there's nobody this time, because he doesn't want anybody to, because this time he's going to do this. That is the time that will come up in the end times. Sarah.
I do have a question. I have two questions, actually. The first one is, what was the significance with Samaria?
They followed Jerusalem.
But it said Samaria was older. Was the older sister. And then who is Samaria now?
She was. I really don't know.
Okay. Okay.
And I would rather say that than say something wrong.
Absolutely. It just made me think, because I was like, whoa, if Samaria was the older one, you would think that Samaria would follow under.
But nobody knows who these people are. Everybody thinks that.
Okay.
But even Jerusalem, the people themselves of Israel are all over the planet right now. And that's what I'm saying, is that those people over there now, they're not all of them. Some of them are, but that's not all of them. And I don't know where the others are. And nobody will until they will be all brought there. And the thing that nobody understands, the ones that were going to be brought back are going to be brought back in flesh, not as spirits. A lot of people that you would bring that question to now, they're going to be spirits just like us. No, they're not.
One more question. Was Samaria dealt with harshly because, or Ohala harshly because she died and,
She was dealt with harshly with one, she was supposed to be an example to her older sister. Younger sister. And the example she gave was no good. Whoever she was. And the sister, the younger sister, just followed behind her and did everything she did. And he killed them both. And will kill them both again if they do what they're supposed to do, according to this.
thank you.
Anyone else? A lot of the things that I found in the commentaries about this were confusing, because a lot of this stuff is confusing, and some of the prophecies are so dense that they fold over each other, and any explanation winding up in one prophecy leads into another one, you're going to be completely confused. The best thing to do is to learn the lessons from the prophecies here, and other places in the Bible link up to this. And the old linkages aren't the same anymore because the Bibles are written not as precisely anymore, these new ones. The NIV, the NASV, that stuff is not, a lot of that stuff is not written well. And some of them even exclude whole verses, whole sections of the book. And that makes it worse.
In other words, it's to show you that what will happen if you don't. Look what they did, look what happened to them.
Yes.
No matter what the people are, look what happened. Because he kept saying, I am your friend. Listen up. No. So it's getting worse by the degree. Instead of you saying, well, they did this, I'm not going to do that. That's what's going on. And when it says the high priest that never came in, that's going on now with the dignitaries and the presidents. I think
Yes. That's very true. And nowadays, anything with the Bible, the world just dismisses it out of hand without any chance. If you notice though, if you think about it and you read it, every archaeological dig now reflects the Bible more than anything else, but they never have any of that stuff on television. The only way you can do it is to go to the things themselves, and some of that stuff is that thick. And you got to go through it all to get the right information. But they now know that the earth has only been here about 8,000 years or so. And it's provable. And these people have it down as these millions and millions of years and all of that. This thing has been here a very short time in comparison. And that's very widely known now by these people that are really expert at doing this stuff. But they don't have any platform on television because they don't let them near a television camera with this information. Dwayne.
A fellow that got into the cave where the equipment from the sanctuary was stored after the Romans broke in, was given a vial of blood, which he took to a lab. And they gave him the findings. If they said people have gone back to discuss that with them, they just turn their back and walk away. They will not discuss it.
That's usually what happens. Yes.
Also of my kids, you know, because they heard this and they've been very young, and it scares me because I wonder how much of that do they keep in their heart, or how much of it do they remember. I know that they know that when our holy days come up, I do what I have to do, and they go, for the most part, they go along. Excuse me. But it does become extremely scary because you teach this and you practice it, then all of a sudden they go and do their own thing. They grow up and they leave the belief, and it becomes so scary. I know for me it's even worse because they were in the church at one time and now they're not, and it saddens me in such a great way for those who have kids of my kids' age or older, those who have kids at the church, can truly understand the pain that one goes through, because it breaks their heart. I know it breaks my heart every time to know that our holy days come up and I'm by myself. And it just made me just think of what Sister Savannah said, about how we have to teach our children. But what happens to those who've been taught and left? That's the most petrifying part for me. Thank you.
The most horrible part. The hardest thing in the world to do for a person that is proud is to come back to something that they have walked away from, whoever it is. And the Bible itself says that I'll find that where it says the hardest thing to do for a person is to come back to it after they have gone away and falling back into the world.
Even though they go far.
One thing about it though, What's coming? Most of us know it intellectually, but the world has never seen what's coming. They've seen a little bit over here, and that not ever has the whole world been inflamed at the same time. This is going to scare people. The Bible itself says that people are going to be dying in the streets from fear from what they see, not what they do. What they see is going to scare them so bad they're going to die on the spot. And at the same time, in another place it says that people that want to die will not be able to find death. What could that be? It's something different for everyone. And that is the time, if you're open to that, that you can come back if your heart is right. But the only one that knows that is the Father. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I can sell it. No. I can't tell in any way, shape, or form whether you're not faking or not. And anybody that says that they can got another thing coming. Expecting that from here, you can go somewhere else. And I can say that with not pride, but truth. I can't do it. And I don't know anybody that can. I've had some that come before me and say they could. Where are they now?
Verse 4 and to 6, see if this is it. For it is impossible for those who were once enlightened and have tasted the heavenly gift and have become partakers of the Holy Spirit and have tasted the good word of Elohim and the powers of the age to come, if they fall away, to renew them again to repentance, since they crucify again for themselves the Son of Elohim and put him to an open shame.